Welcome to my Channel Deep Sleep Mission-DSM. As we begin, I would be delighted if you could share your location in the comments below. It's truly inspiring to witness how far this content travels and to connect with viewers from across the world. Listen carefully, because what I'm about to tell you might save your life. 3 weeks ago, I was just like you, probably lying in bed right now, scrolling through stories, thinking the Devil's Chair was just another urban legend. But I found it. The real one. And now I can't sleep without checking under my bed first. Before we begin this story, hit that subscribe button. Trust me, you'll want to hear what happens next, and leave a comment below if you've ever felt something watching you in the dark. Because after tonight, you might start feeling it too. The story begins now. My name is Jake Morrison, and I'm a location scout for a small production company out of Portland. 3 weeks ago, my boss handed me a folder with the weirdest assignment I'd ever received. "Find the Devil's Chair," he said, like it was just another Tuesday. The folder contained dozens of photos, grainy, black and white images from the 1950s, showing this ancient-looking stone chair in the middle of various forests. The thing is, each photo showed it in a completely different location. Vermont, Oregon, Montana. Always deep in the woods. Always alone. "It's for a documentary," my boss explained. "Every state claims to have the real Devil's Chair. We need to find the original." I almost laughed, but the pay was too good to pass up. $5,000 just to find a rock formation. Sign me up. That first night I dove deep into research. Forums, old newspaper clippings, historical records. The stories were all the same. Sit in the chair at midnight, and the devil himself will grant you one wish. The price? Well, nobody who actually sat in it ever said. Most of the chairs were obvious fakes, carved by locals in the 1970s to attract tourists. But there was one that kept appearing in records dating back to the 1600s, always described the same way. Black stone, impossibly smooth, and cold. So cold it burned. The trail led me to a small town in Massachusetts called Millbrook. Population, 2,847. The kind of place where everybody knows everybody, and outsiders stick out like me. I checked into the Millbrook Inn around sunset. The elderly woman at the desk, Mrs. Henley, squinted at me over her glasses. "You're not here about the chair, are you?" My heart skipped. "What chair?" She leaned in close. I could smell peppermint on her breath. "Good, keep it that way." That night, I lay in bed listening to the old building creak and groan. The walls were thin. I could hear the couple next door arguing about money. Someone's TV playing too loud downstairs. Normal sounds. Safe sounds. But around midnight, everything went quiet. Too quiet, like the whole town was holding its breath. I got up and looked out the window. Main Street was empty. No cars, no late-night dog walkers. Even the streetlights seemed dimmer than they should be. That's when I saw him. An old man standing under a streetlight, staring directly at my window. He didn't move, didn't blink, just watched. I stepped back from the window, heart pounding. Counted to 10. Looked again. He was gone. But there was something else. A message written in the fog on my window. From the inside. "You're already chosen." I hadn't written it. I was alone in the room. My hands shook as I wiped it away. The next morning, I hit the local library. The librarian, a woman named Sarah Chen, was surprisingly helpful. "You're looking for the Blackwood trail maps, aren't you?" she said before I even asked. "How did you—" "You're not the first, won't be the last." She led me to a locked cabinet in the basement. "These don't leave the building." And Jake? She knew my name. I hadn't told her my name. Some things are better left unfound. The maps were hand-drawn, some dating back centuries, all showing the same area deep in the Blackwood forest. But here's the thing. Each map showed the chair in a slightly different spot, like it moved. I spent hours comparing them, looking for patterns. And then I found it. A note written in faded ink on the oldest map. The chair appears only to those who truly seek it. Follow the cold. Follow the cold. What did that mean? There was more. A journal tucked behind the maps. The entries were from different decades, different hands, but all told the same story. People who'd sought the chair found it, and what happened after. One entry stood out. Written in 1987, "The chair doesn't grant wishes, it trades. What you want most for what makes you human. I wanted to be rich, now I have all the money I could dream of. But food tastes like ash. Music sounds like static. I can't feel my daughter's hugs anymore. I'm the richest corpse in Massachusetts. I left the library around noon, maps photographed on my phone. The town felt different in daylight. People smiled, waved, normal small-town stuff, but their eyes followed me everywhere. At the general store, I bought supplies, water, energy bars, a better flashlight. The teenager at the register rang me up without a word, but as I turned to leave, he grabbed my wrist. His hand was ice cold. "My sister sat in it," he whispered. 3 years ago, she came back. Different. Different how? He let go, stepped back. "She doesn't cast a shadow anymore." I wanted to laugh, wanted to chalk it up to small-town superstition, but the boy's eyes, there was real fear there, real pain. "Where is she now?" "Room 237 at Millbrook General. Been there since she came back. She doesn't sleep, doesn't eat. Just sits there, staring at nothing. Doctors can't explain it. Her body works perfectly, but there's nothing inside anymore." That afternoon, I drove to the Blackwood Forest entrance. The parking area was empty except for one other car, a rusted pickup that looked like it had been there for years. The trail map at the entrance was faded, barely readable, but I didn't need it. I had the old maps. The forest was beautiful in that haunting New England way. Tall pines blocking out most of the sun, moss-covered rocks. The sound of water somewhere in the distance. But as I hiked deeper, things started to change. The temperature dropped. Not gradually, suddenly, like walking into a freezer. My breath came out in white puffs. In September, in Massachusetts, that's when I understood. Follow the cold. I found something else, too, carved into trees along the path. Names, messages, warnings. Turn back. MJ 1,993 inches. It lies. Sarah 2,001 inches. The price is everything. Tom, 2,018 inches. The deeper I went, the more desperate the messages became. Some were fresh, others so old the trees had partially healed around them. I pulled out my phone. The compass app spun wildly, unable to find north. The GPS showed my location jumping around like I was teleporting. Even the time was wrong. It said 3:33 p.m., but my watch showed 4:17. The cold intensified with each step. My fingers went numb. Ice crystals formed on my jacket, but I kept walking, following the unnatural chill deeper into the woods. The trees changed too. The further I went, the older they looked, gnarled, twisted. Some had faces in the bark, or at least that's what my mind told me they were. Then I heard it. Footsteps, behind me, matching my pace perfectly. I stopped, they stopped, I turned around. Nothing, just trees and shadows. I started walking again. The footsteps returned, closer this time. "Hello," my voice cracked. "Is someone there?" No answer. Just the sound of my own breathing and those damn footsteps. But then, laughter. Soft, like a child's, coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. I started jogging. The footsteps kept pace. Running now, they ran too. My chest burned from the cold air. My legs screamed. But I couldn't stop, wouldn't stop. That's when I saw it. The clearing appeared out of nowhere. 1 second, dense forest. The next, open space. And in the center, the devil's chair. It was exactly like the old photos. Black stone so dark it seemed to absorb light. Carved from a single piece, impossible smooth. And the cold was coming from the chair itself. I approached slowly. The footsteps had stopped. Everything had stopped. No birds, no wind, no sound at all except my own heartbeat. The chair was beautiful, in a terrible way, like a black hole given form. The carved armrests ended in what looked like claws. The back rose high, decorated with symbols I didn't recognize. And the seat looked exactly sized for a person. For me. I circled it, taking photos. Each angle revealed new details. The stone wasn't actually smooth. It was covered in tiny inscriptions, names. Thousands of names carved so small you'd need a magnifying glass to read them. I leaned in closer, squinted. Some of the names were recent. Jennifer Walsh, 2019. Marcus Thompson, 2021. And then I saw it. Jake Morrison, 2024. My name was already there. I stumbled backward, tripped over a root, hit the ground hard. When I looked up, someone was sitting in the chair. No, not someone. Something. A shadow in the shape of a person. It had no features, no face, just darkness given form. It stood, walked toward me. Each step left frost on the ground, and then it spoke. Not with words, directly into my mind. You've been chosen, Jake Morrison. Chosen to witness. Chosen to decide. Chosen to understand the true nature of sacrifice. Images flooded my mind. Every person who'd ever sat in the chair, their wishes, their prices. A mother who wanted her child cured of cancer, but lost the ability to love. A man who wished for immortality, but watched everyone he cared about age and die while he remained frozen in time. Each wish granted perfectly, each price exactly what would hurt most. I scrambled to my feet, ran, didn't look back, didn't stop until I burst out of the forest and collapsed next to my car. The sun was setting. According to my phone, I'd been in the woods for 6 hours. It had felt like one. But when I checked my camera, the photos were all there. The chair, the clearing, even one I didn't remember taking. Of me, standing in front of the chair reaching out to touch it. I drove back to the inn in a daze. Mrs. Henley took one look at me and poured a cup of tea. You found it, didn't you? I nodded. Couldn't speak. Drink this. It'll help with the cold. The tea was bitter, herbal, but she was right. The chill that had settled in my bones started to fade. My husband found it once, she said quietly. 40 years ago. He didn't sit in it, but he touched it. Just once. She stared into her own cup. He was never warm again. Died of hypothermia in the middle of July. What is it? She shrugged. Some say it's a gateway, others think it's a trap. All I know is that everyone who sits in it gets what they wish for, but the price... She shook her head. The price is always more than they're willing to pay. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that shadow figure, felt the cold, heard those footsteps. Around 3 a.m., I realized something. The footsteps hadn't been behind me. They'd been ahead of me, leading me to the chair. And worse, when I checked my phone before bed, there was a new photo, one I absolutely hadn't taken. It showed me sleeping in my bed at the inn, taken from inside the room. The timestamp said 3:33 a.m. It was only 3:15. The next day, I tried to leave Millbrook. Keyword, tried. My car wouldn't start. The mechanic said it was the strangest thing. The engine was frozen solid in September. Every rental car in town was mysteriously booked. The bus didn't stop here anymore. Even my phone couldn't get an Uber to accept the ride. I was trapped. That's when the dreams started. Every night, the same thing. I'm back in the clearing, the chair is empty, waiting, and in the dream, I know exactly what I want to wish for, something I've never told anyone. Something I've carried like a stone in my chest for years. My sister Emma, she died when I was 17. Car accident. My fault. I was driving. In the dream, I sit in the chair, and she's there, alive, smiling. I forgive you, she says. I wake up crying every time. By the fourth day, I was going crazy. The cold had come back. Not as bad as in the forest, but constant. Like winter in my bones. Food tasted like ash. Colors seemed faded. The only thing that felt real was the pull. The need to go back to the chair. I visited the hospital. Found room 237. Jennifer Walsh was there, just like the boy had said. She sat perfectly still in a chair by the window. Her eyes were open but empty, like looking into deep water. "Jennifer?" I whispered. She turned to me, slowly, mechanically. "You've seen it too." Her voice was flat, emotionless. "It's calling you back. It always calls us back." "What did you wish for?" "My mother. She had stage 4 cancer, 2 weeks to live." Jennifer almost smiled. "She's perfectly healthy now, runs marathons, but she doesn't remember me. The chair took her love for me as payment. I saved her life, but I stopped existing to her." "Why are you here?" "Because I'm empty. The chair doesn't just take your wish's price, it takes a piece of you with it. The piece that makes you, you. I'm alive, but I'm not living. I can't feel anything anymore. Not sadness, not joy, not love, not hate. Just nothing." I left the hospital shaking, but the pull was stronger now. The chair was calling me, promising me Emma, promising me forgiveness. Sarah from the library found me at the diner, staring at a cup of coffee I couldn't taste. She slid into the booth across from me. "You're thinking about going back." It wasn't a question. "How do you know?" She rolled up her sleeve. Her arm was covered in scars. Names. Thousands of tiny names carved into her skin. "Because I sat in it. 20 years ago." My blood ran cold. Well, colder. "What did you wish for?" "Knowledge. I wanted to know everything. Be the smartest person alive." She laughed bitterly. "And I got it. Every secret, every lie, every horrible truth about every person I meet. Do you have any idea what it's like to know exactly how and when everyone around you will die?" I stared at her arm. The names. Everyone who's ever sat in the chair. They appear on my skin. I'm its record keeper now, its witness. She pulled her sleeve down. "That's why I helped you find it. The chair told me you were coming. Told me your name 3 weeks ago. So don't go back," I said. "I won't go back." She smiled sadly. "Oh, Jake, you don't have a choice. Nobody does. Once you've seen it, it's only a matter of time." That night, I tried to leave on foot. Made it about a mile out of town before the cold became unbearable. My joints locked up. My vision blurred. I barely made it back to the inn. Mrs. Henley was waiting with more tea. "Tomorrow, then?" "Tomorrow what?" "You'll go back tomorrow. They always do. Usually takes about a week." I wanted to argue, but I could feel it. The pull. Like gravity, like falling. What happens if I don't sit in it? She gestured to the window. Outside, I could see the old man from my first night, still standing under the streetlight, still staring. "That's Mr. Walsh, Jennifer's father. He's been standing there for 3 years, waiting for her to come back. She sat in the chair to bring her mother back from cancer. It worked. Her mother recovered completely. But Jennifer, she forgot how to be human, how to eat, how to sleep, how to love. She's alive, but..." Mrs. Henley shrugged. "Sometimes dead is better. And if I do sit in it, then you become part of it, forever. Your name joins the thousands carved in the stone. Your shadow joins the watchers in the clearing. And somewhere, someone you love pays a price they never agreed to pay." I spent the night writing, recording everything. If something happened to me, I wanted a record, proof. But as dawn broke, I knew Sarah was right. I didn't have a choice. The chair had chosen me the moment I'd seen that first photograph. Everything else, the research, the town, the forest, it had all been theater. A game. The chair liked to play with its food. The walk back to the forest felt different this time. Familiar, like coming home. The town was empty. Or maybe I just couldn't see people anymore. The cold had spread through me completely. I felt like a ghost already. The forest welcomed me. No resistance this time. The trees seemed to part, creating a clear path, and the footsteps were back. But now I understood they weren't following or leading. They were mine, an echo from the future. The sound of me leaving the chair, if I left at all. The clearing was exactly as I'd left it. Except there were others now. Shadow figures like the one I'd seen before. Dozens of them, standing in a circle around the chair, waiting. I understood then. Everyone who'd ever sat in the chair, they were all here. Part of it now, the chair itself seemed larger, more imposing. The black stone pulsed like a heartbeat, and the cold was coming from inside it, from whatever lay beyond. I approached slowly, the shadows parted. Up close I could see the names carved in the stone more clearly. So many names, centuries of wishes, centuries of prices paid. I reached out, hesitated. Once I touched it, there would be no going back. Jake. I spun around. Emma stood at the edge of the clearing. Not a shadow. Her, 17 years old, wearing the same clothes from that night. Emma, my voice broke. She smiled. That crooked smile I'd almost forgotten. Hey, little brother, took you long enough. You're not real. Does it matter? She stepped closer. Sit in the chair, Jake. Wish me back. We can be a family again. Mom and Dad, they need us both. The temptation was overwhelming. Every cell in my body screamed to sit down, to make the wish, to fix the worst mistake of my life. But what's the price? I asked. Emma's smile faded. Does it matter? Yes. She was quiet for a long moment. Then, you know what the price is. You've always known. I did. Deep down, I'd known from the beginning. The chair doesn't take something from you, it takes you. Your warmth, your humanity, your ability to connect with the world. You get your wish, but you become like the chair itself. Cold, dark, alone, forever. But there's more, Emma continued. The real price. Mom and Dad, if you bring me back, they'll lose you. Not to death, to something worse. You'll be there, but not there. A shadow in their lives. They'll spend their remaining years trying to reach you, to bring back the son they lost to the chair. Is that what you want? To trade their pain for yours? I can't, I whispered. Emma nodded. I know, that's why I'm here, the real me. To tell you, it's okay. It was never your fault, Jake. I forgave you the moment it happened. But, no buts. Live your life, be warm, be human, be everything I can't be anymore. She started to fade. Emma, wait. The chair will let you go, but only once. Leave now, and never come back. No matter what you hear, no matter what you see, never come back. She was gone. The shadows around the chair shifted, agitated. They'd been denied their newest member. I backed away, one step, two. The cold tried to hold me, but it was weaker now. Like Emma had cut some invisible chain. But the chair wasn't done. It had one more card to play. The shadows moved aside, revealing someone sitting in the chair. Not a shadow this time. A man, alive, human. My father. Dad? He looked up at me with hollow eyes. I couldn't live with it anymore, Jake. The guilt, losing Emma. Watching you blame yourself. I came here last week. I wished to take your pain away. No. It's already done. In 3 days, you'll wake up and won't remember Emma at all. Won't remember the accident. Won't remember the guilt. You'll be free. What's the price? But I already knew. I'll remember for you all of it, forever. Your pain added to mine, doubled, tripled, until it consumes me." He tried to smile. "It's what fathers do. Dad, no, there has to be a way to undo this. There is." His voice was fading. "Sit in the chair, make your own wish. But then someone else pays your price, and the cycle continues, forever." I looked at the chair, at my father, at the shadows waiting eagerly for their newest member. And I made my choice. I turned and ran. This time, the forest fought me. Branches grabbed at my clothes. Roots tried to trip me. The path kept changing, trying to lead me back to the clearing. But I kept Emma's words in my heart. Be warm, be human. I burst out of the forest as the sun was setting. My car started on the first try. I drove through the night, didn't stop until I reached Portland. Home had never looked so beautiful. But here's the thing, and this is why I'm telling you this story. The chair is still there, waiting. And now that you've heard about it, really heard about it, you'll start to feel it too. The cold, the pull, the whisper in the back of your mind telling you that you could find it, that you could make that one wish that would fix everything. Don't listen. Or do. That's the terrible beauty of it. The choice is yours. But remember what I told you. Remember Emma's words. Be warm. Be human. Be everything the chair can never be. It's been 3 weeks now. Dad was right. The memories are starting to fade. Some mornings, I wake up and can't remember why I feel so sad. Emma's face is getting blurry. The details of that night are slipping away. Part of me wants to go back. Sit in the chair, wish to keep my memories, my pain, my guilt. Because without them, who am I? But I know that's what the chair wants. For me to choose pain over peace, to choose guilt over growth, to choose the past over the future. So I let them go, a little more each day, and I live. For Emma, for Dad, for everyone who sat in that chair and paid prices they never should have paid. Some nights, I still dream about it. The clearing, the shadows, the impossible black stone. And in those dreams, I'm sitting in the chair. Every time I'm sitting in the chair, I wake up screaming. But I wake up warm, and I wake up human. That's more than the chair can ever offer. 3 weeks ago, I found the devil's chair, the real one. And the only reason I'm still human enough to tell this story is because I did the hardest thing I've ever done. I walked away. The question is, when you find it, and you will find it now that you know, will you be strong enough to do the same? Sweet dreams. If you made it this far, you're probably feeling it already. That little chill, that curiosity. Leave a comment below. Have you ever felt pulled towards something you knew was dangerous? And don't forget to subscribe, because the chair isn't the only thing I've found. And the next story might be about what found me. Sleep tight, check under your bed, and whatever you do, don't follow the cold. Unless you're already feeling it. In which case, I'm sorry, the chair has already chosen you too. Listen the whispers and make a decision whether we are going to cooperate with the whispers or we just want to skip them. But actually, no one can skip these whispers. If you walk away from them, they will run towards you until they reach you. They confront you, make you pay, make you suffer the same thing they suffer. There is no escape from them. If you want to escape, help them, so they can have peace, and you also can have it. Help, or you will ask for help soon. So, the end of today's video has arrived. Share your personal horror experiences in the comments. Also, comment the part of the story that you find the most horror and terrifying. If you like this video, leave a like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Also, ring the bell icon so you don't miss the upcoming videos. Remember, don't run from whispers, because they follow you. They know you. They want you to listen, just confront them. Now, sleep well, or should I say, have a haunted night. Story number 2. The first time I heard it, I was microwaving leftover Chinese takeout at 2:47 a.m. 3 short rings, 3 long rings, 3 short rings again. SOS, I dropped my chopsticks. General Tso's chicken splattered across my kitchen floor in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, but I barely noticed. My heart was hammering against my ribs like it was trying to escape. Who rings a doorbell in Morse code, and more importantly, who rings it asking for help at nearly 3 in the morning? I stood frozen in my kitchen, MSG-scented steam still rising from the microwave. The old Victorian house I'd inherited from my grandmother creaked around me. Outside, November wind rattled the windows, but there was no second ring. No knock, no voice calling for help, just silence. I grabbed my phone, thumb hovering over 911, but what would I say? Officer, someone rang my doorbell in a pattern? They'd think I was drunk or crazy, maybe both. So I did what any rational person would do. I crept to the front door, pressed my eye against the peephole, and looked out into the darkness of Shorewood Boulevard. Nothing. Empty porch, empty street. Just the skeletal branches of the old oak tree swaying in the streetlight's amber glow. If you're listening to this right now, probably tucked under your covers thinking this is just another creepy story, I need you to understand something. This isn't fiction. This happened to me. And if you hear your doorbell ringing in patterns, well, let's just say you might want to keep listening. But before I tell you what happened next, hit that subscribe button. Trust me, you're going to want to hear how this ends. And drop a comment if you've ever heard something at night that you couldn't explain. Because I have a feeling I'm not the only one. Now, let the story begin. That first night, I convinced myself it was neighborhood kids. You know how it is in suburban Milwaukee. Halloween had just passed, and teenagers were probably still riding that sugar high, looking for thrills. Ding-dong ditch with a creative twist. I cleaned up the spilled Chinese food, double-checked the locks, and went to bed. The next night, it happened again. 2:47 a.m. Exactly. This time, it wasn't SOS dit-da-dit-dit-dit-dit-dit-dit-dit. Lee H., my grandmother, had taught me Morse code when I was 8. She'd been a telegraph operator during World War II, stationed at Great Lakes Naval Base. "Margaret," she used to say, tapping messages on my palm. Sometimes the most important messages come in the quietest ways. L-E-H didn't spell anything. At least, nothing that made sense. I yanked open the door this time, half expecting to catch some punk kid running down my front steps. But again, nothing. Just the porch light casting long shadows across the weathered boards. The doorbell button seemed to mock me, its little LED light glowing innocent blue in the darkness. The third night, I was ready. I set up my phone to record video, pointing it at the front door. I made coffee instead of tea, determined to stay alert. I even pulled out Grandma's old telegraph key from the attic, running my fingers over the brass contact points. 2:47 a.m. came. The doorbell rang. Dit-dit-dit, dit-dit-dit-dit, dit, she. My blood ran cold. Not because of the word it was starting to spell, but because I could see my phone screen from where I sat. The video showed my front porch, clear as day in the night vision mode. The doorbell was ringing, but no one was pressing it. I must have sat there for 20 minutes, just staring at that empty porch on my phone screen while my doorbell continued its ghostly message. S-H-E. Over and over, like someone practicing scales on a piano, except the notes were electronic dings that seemed to burrow into my brain. Then it stopped. I waited until sunrise before checking the doorbell. It was one of those smart doorbells, the kind that's supposed to detect motion and save video clips. You know, the ones everyone in suburbia has now. Safety and convenience all wrapped up in a $100 gadget. The app showed no motion detected, no video clips saved. According to the technology, nothing had happened at all. But I knew better. That night, I disconnected the doorbell. You'd think disconnecting the doorbell would solve the problem, right? That's what any logical person would assume. Pull the wires, remove the battery, problem solved. I slept peacefully for exactly one night. Then, at 2:47 a.m., I heard it again. Not the doorbell this time. The sound was coming from inside the house. Tap, 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 tap. The pattern knocked against my bedroom wall, right behind my headboard. Ply shot out of bed so fast I knocked over my water glass and it shattered on the hardwood floor, but I barely noticed. The tapping continued, methodical and precise. PLE. Please. I pressed my ear against the wall. The sound wasn't coming from the other side, it was coming from inside the wall itself. Between the studs and insulation, something was tapping out a message. Dit-da, dit-dit-dit-dit-dit. A. By now, my hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone steady as I recorded the sound. The tapping moved along the wall, traveling from behind my bed toward the corner of the room. I followed it, bare feet crunching on broken glass, too terrified to care about the pain. The sound stopped at the closet door. Now, I need you to understand something about this house. It's old, built in 1893, original Victorian, with all those quirks that come with century-old construction. Hidden doors, servant stairs, weird spaces between walls where they added modern plumbing and electricity. My bedroom closet had always been oddly deep. Grandma used to joke that it went all the way to Narnia. As a kid, I'd been too scared to play in there. As an adult, I just used the front part for clothes and ignored the shadowy back section. The tapping started again, from inside the closet. Dit-da-dit-dit. I stood there in my pajamas, bleeding feet leaving prints on the floor, staring at that closet door. Every instinct screamed at me not to open it, but I had to know. You understand that, right? When fear and curiosity wrestle in your mind, sometimes curiosity wins. I grabbed the doorknob. The brass was ice cold under my palm. Taking a deep breath, I yanked it open. My clothes hung there, normal as ever. But beyond them, in that deep darkness at the back of the closet, I saw something that made my stomach drop. The back wall had been removed, recently. The edges of the drywall were clean-cut, not crumbled with age. Beyond was a narrow space, barely wide enough for a person to stand sideways. And on the floor of that hidden passage, fresh footprints in the dust, leading away from my bedroom. I slammed the closet door and shoved my dresser in front of it. Then I did what I should have done 3 nights ago. I called the police. The officers who responded were professional, I'll give them that. They didn't laugh when I explained about the Morse code. They searched the house thoroughly, even brought in a K9 unit. Officer Kowalski, a burly man with kind eyes, personally checked every inch of that hidden space. "Ma'am," he said, emerging from my closet covered in cobwebs, "that passage leads to the old servant stairs. They're sealed off at both ends. Have been for decades from the look of it. Nobody's been in there recently. But the footprints, I didn't see any footprints, just a lot of dust and spider webs." He showed me photos on his phone. The space was exactly as he described. Dusty, undisturbed. No sign anyone had been there in years. But I knew what I'd seen. After the police left, I found a hotel. A nice, modern one, downtown near the Milwaukee Art Museum. The kind with key cards and security cameras and absolutely no hidden passages. I collapsed into that sterile king-size bed, convinced I'd finally get some sleep. At 2:47 a.m., the hotel room phone rang. I stared at it, my heart hammering. Hotels don't call guests in the middle of the night unless there's an emergency. Fire, evacuation, something urgent. I picked up the receiver with a trembling hand. Silence. Then, clicking. Rhythmic clicking on the line. Dit-da-dit-dit, dit, dit-da, dit-da-dit, dit-dit-dit, dit. Lurse. The line went dead. I didn't sleep for the next 36 hours. Instead, I did what any millennial does when faced with the unexplainable. I went down an internet rabbit hole. Forums, Reddit threads, obscure websites about paranormal experiences. I searched every combination of Morse code, doorbell, 2:47 a.m. and haunting that I could think of. Nothing. Then, buried in a genealogy website, I found something that made my blood run cold. Margaret Ann Mueller. My name, my grandmother's name. But this record was from 1923. A death certificate for a different Margaret Ann Mueller. Age 24, cause of death, missing, presumed drowned in Lake Michigan. The address listed, my house, my grandmother's house. I drove back home in broad daylight, armed with a flashlight, a crowbar, and my laptop. If there were answers, they'd be in that house. Grandma had been meticulous about keeping family records. Photo albums, letters, documents going back generations. The attic was exactly as I'd left it when I retrieved the telegraph key. Boxes stacked to the rafters, labeled in Grandma's careful handwriting. I started with the oldest ones, dated from the 1920s. In a leather-bound photo album, I found her. The other, Margaret Ann Mueller. She looked exactly like me. Same dark hair, same gap between the front teeth, same slight tilt to her smile. If you'd shown me this photo without context, I would have sworn it was me in a vintage costume. Behind the photo was a newspaper clipping from the Milwaukee Journal, dated November 15, 1923. Local woman missing. Lake search continues. Margaret Ann Mueller, 24, disappeared from her Shorewood home on November 12th. Her husband, Charles Mueller, reported her missing when she failed to return from an evening walk. Police suspect she may have fallen into Lake Michigan during the recent storms. Search efforts continue despite dangerous conditions. November 12th. 3 days ago had been November 12th when the doorbell started ringing. I kept digging. Letters between family members, legal documents, and then, tucked inside a Bible, I found a telegram. The paper was yellowed and brittle, but the message was clear. Charles murdered me, stop body and wall. Stop, please help, stop. It was unsigned, but at the bottom, someone had penciled in a note. Found in telegraph office, never sent, November 13th, 1923. My hands shook as I photographed everything. Then I heard it. In broad daylight, at 2:47 p.m., exactly 12 hours off schedule. Tapping from downstairs. Dit, dit, da, dit, da, dit, dit, da, dit, 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 Eres, no. That wasn't right. I was missing something. I crept downstairs, following the sound. It led to the basement door, the one room I'd avoided searching. Grandma had always kept it locked, said it was just full of old heating equipment and wasn't safe. The door stood open. I'd locked it myself after the police left, I was sure of it. The tapping echoed up from the darkness below, steady, insistent, pleading. I descended those wooden stairs, each step creaking under my weight. The basement was exactly as Grandma had described. An old furnace squatted in one corner like a metal spider. Pipes ran along the ceiling. Nothing unusual, except for the wall. The east wall was newer than the others. Different bricks, different mortar. And the tapping was coming from behind it. Dit-da-dit-dit-dit-dit-da, dit-da-dit, dit-dit-dit, dit-dit-dit-dit, dit-dit-dit. Lear says no. Still wrong. I pulled out my phone, opening a Morse code translator app. I played back my recordings, slowing them down. And that's when I realized my mistake. The spaces between letters were shorter than I'd thought. It wasn't random letters. It was 2 words. Wall cellar. I stared at that newer section of wall, at the bricks that didn't match, at the mortar that was a different color. Grandma had never let me in the basement, had never let anyone in the basement. What had she been hiding? I picked up the crowbar. The first brick came loose easily, too easily, like it had been waiting to fall. Behind it was darkness and the smell of old air, stale, confined, wrong. I should have stopped there, should have called the police again, should have done anything except keep pulling bricks away, but I couldn't stop. Each brick I removed revealed more darkness, more of that terrible smell, and something else. Fabric, the edge of a dress preserved in the airless space. My phone rang, the sound so loud in the silent basement that I nearly dropped the crowbar. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me swipe accept. Margaret. The voice was old, trembling. Familiar, but not quite right. Margaret, you need to stop. Who is this? You know who this is, dear. You've always known. The line crackled with static. Then, clear as day, I heard it. The clicking. Morse code tapped out on the other end. Dit 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 da 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 dit da dit da dit 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 da dit 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 da da dit awalia no dit 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 da da dit da dit 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 da dit dit I was sure. The call ended. My phone's screen went black. When I tried to turn it back on, nothing happened. The basement suddenly felt colder, darker. The single bulb overhead flickered. I turned back to the hole I'd made in the wall. There was no going back now. I pulled away more bricks until the opening was large enough to shine my flashlight inside. The beam illuminated a small space, maybe 4 feet by 4 feet. And in that space, she sat against the far wall, still wearing that dress from the photograph. The fabric had held up remarkably well in the dry, sealed space. But Margaret Ann Mueller herself. Bones. Just bones now, still arranged in a sitting position. Her skull tilted back against the brick. Her hands folded in her lap. And clutched between those finger bones was something that made my heart stop. A telegraph key. I reached in, my hand shaking, and touched the brass device. The moment my skin made contact, the basement erupted in sound. Not tapping this time, a voice, her voice, my voice, our voice. He said no one would believe me. Said a missing woman was better than a divorced woman. Said the lake would hide his crime. But I knew Morse code, learned it from my mother, just like you learned from yours. Tried to send for help, but he found me. Sealed me in here while I was still breathing. Still tapping. The voice came from everywhere and nowhere. From the walls. From the air, from inside my own head. Every Margaret in our family has the gift, the ability to hear what others can't. Your grandmother heard me tapping all those years, kept me sealed to protect you. But I'm tired of the darkness, tired of the silence. Set me free. I stumbled backward, the telegraph key falling from my hand. It hit the concrete floor with a sharp clang that seemed to echo forever. And in that echo, I heard it again. The tapping. But this time, I understood the full message. The one she'd been trying to send for 100 years. Charles murdered me, stop body and wall, stop, please send help, stop Margaret Ann Mueller. Stop. The light bulb exploded overhead, plunging the basement into darkness. In that black void, I heard movement, scratching, dragging, the sound of old bones finding new life. I ran, up the stairs, through the house, out the front door. I didn't stop running until I reached my car. Didn't stop driving until I was 3 states away. That was 6 months ago. I hired a company to deal with the house. Told them about the body in the basement. Let the police handle the historical cold case. Let the newspapers run their stories about the century-old murder finally solved. I never went back. The investigation revealed more than I wanted to know. Charles Mueller had been a telegraph operator too. Met the first Margaret at work. Married her for her inheritance. That house. When she discovered his affair with her own sister, she threatened divorce. In 1923, that would have meant he'd lose everything. So he killed her. The police found her telegraph key still connected to wires he'd run through the walls. She'd managed to tap out messages for 3 days before she died. 3 days of crying for help in the only language she knew would travel beyond those bricks. But technology in 1923 wasn't what it is now. The signals went nowhere, dissipated into the electrical system of the house itself, until smart home technology gave those signals a new voice, a new way to reach out. The contractor who cleaned out the basement called me last month, said they found something else behind the wall. Another telegraph key. This one was different, newer, The manufacture date stamped on the bottom was 1962. There was a note with it, he said, addressed to someone named Margaret. That you? My grandmother's name. My name, our name. The note was in my grandmother's handwriting. I hear you, I've always heard you, but I can't let you out. She won't understand, not yet. When the time comes, she'll find you. She has the gift, too. My grandmother, had known. All those years, she'd known there was a body in our basement, had heard the tapping, had chosen to leave her there. The contractor also mentioned something else, something that made my skin crawl. They'd found more spaces behind other walls, small cavities, each one with scratches on the bricks, fingernail marks, Morse code carved desperately into the mortar. How many? I asked. 7, he said. 7 spaces, but we only found one body. I hung up, blocked his number. Tried to forget. But here's the thing that keeps me awake at night in my new apartment in Phoenix, far from basements and old houses and family secrets. Last week, my doorbell rang at 2:47 a.m. I don't have a doorbell in this apartment, but I heard it anyway, clear as day, and this time, the message was different. Found You. If you're still listening, I need you to understand something. This isn't just my story anymore, because last night, between the rings, I heard something else. Other patterns, other messages, all in Morse code, all desperate. We're not alone. Those of us who can hear them, those of us with the gift. And they're all trying to tell us something. So I'll ask you again. Have you ever heard your doorbell ring when no one's there? Have you ever heard patterns in the static, messages in the silence? Because if you have, you might want to learn Morse code. You're going to need it. Drop a comment if you've experienced something like this. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. And whatever you do, don't ignore the tapping. It's not going away. None of them are going away. They've been waiting too long to be heard, and now they know we're listening. But wait. Before you go, I need to tell you what happened yesterday. What finally made me record this story. I got a package, no return address, just my name written in shaky handwriting. Inside was a small box, and inside that box, my grandmother's telegraph key, the one I dropped in the basement, the one that should have been an evidence lockup or destroyed with the house renovations. There was a note. You can't run from the gift. The others? I set it on my kitchen counter, staring at it like it might explode. Then, because I'm apparently incapable of learning from experience, I touched it. Immediately, my apartment filled with tapping. Not from one source, from dozens. The walls, the ceiling, the floors, all tapping different patterns, different messages, overlapping into a symphony of desperate communication. Dit-dit-dit, dit-da, dit-da-da, dit, dit-da-da-da, dit-da-da-da, dit-da-dit. Savoir. No, that's not right. Savoir, still wrong. I grabbed paper, started writing down each stream of code separately. That's when I realized they weren't overlapping randomly. They were taking turns. Organized, deliberate. SAVEOURSOULS. Save our souls. Then, clear as a bell, cutting through all the other noise, came a familiar pattern. The same message that had started it all. Dit-dit-dit, dit-da-da-da, dit-dit-dit. SOS. But this time, I recognized the rhythm. The specific timing between dots and dashes. The personality in the pattern. It was my grandmother's touch. She'd been one of them all along. Not a keeper of secrets, but a guardian. A bridge between the living and the trapped. And now that bridge had passed to me. The tapping stopped. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Meeting tonight. Midnight. You know where. I did know. Somehow, I knew exactly where to go. That's why I'm recording this now. In case something happens. In case I don't come back from that meeting. Someone needs to know the truth. We're not dealing with ghosts. Not exactly. We're dealing with something worse. People trapped between, caught in moments of desperation, their last messages echoing through time, waiting for someone who can hear them, understand them, free them. And there are so many, not just in my grandmother's house, in every old building, every place where someone died trying to call for help. They're all still calling, still hoping. The gift isn't just hearing them, it's being able to answer. So I'll leave you with this. If your doorbell starts ringing in patterns, if you hear tapping in your walls, if the static on your phone resolves into dots and dashes, don't run. Listen, learn Morse code, and maybe, just maybe, you can save one of them. Because they're not trying to hurt us, they're trying to warn us about the ones who put them there, the ones who are still out there, still trapping souls in walls and spaces between, the ones who don't want us to listen, the ones who are probably listening to this recording right now. Comment below if you've heard the tapping. Share this story if you know someone with the gift. Subscribe if you want to know what happens after midnight, because one way or another, I'll find a way to tell you, even if I have to tap it out myself. Dit-dit-dit, dit-da-da-da, dit-dit-dit, they're at my door. Now, sleep. Or at least, try to. It's quiet now, too quiet, but not empty. That feeling crawling up your spine, that weight pressing on your chest, that's not your imagination. You're not alone. There's something behind the curtain. You haven't looked, not because you forgot, but because you're afraid to know. You heard the whisper, software wet, wrong, like breath dragged across broken glass. But you told yourself it was the wind, didn't you? That lie made you feel safe. Temporarily. Let me ask you, does the wind whisper your name? Does the wind tap lightly, again and again, from the same spot behind the curtain every night? Does the wind leave scratches on your window that weren't there this morning? Thin, sharp, like claws, like warnings. You don't remember opening the window. You never open the window. But it's unlocked now. You could check, you could stand up, you could walk over and pull the curtain back. But you won't, because you know. You know what's waiting, not because you've seen it, but because you felt it. In the quiet, in the dark. Every time you close your eyes, every time you wake up and your blanket is just slightly moved. Your door slightly cracked. You try to explain it. Your mind wants to explain it. But that whisper, that sound that only comes when you're alone, when everything is still, when the night is at its deepest, that's not a dream, that's a presence. It doesn't want your fear, it wants your attention. It feeds on the moment you doubt yourself. The second you wonder if you heard something, the instant your heart rate rises. That's when it leans closer. It's been patient, watching, learning you like prey. You ever notice it never shows up when the lights are on, when someone's in the room? It waits for the ritual, the brushing of your teeth, the turning off of lights, the last look at your phone, the deep breath just before sleep. That's when it wakes up. That's when it stirs behind the curtain. Sometimes it watches you all night. Sometimes it moves. A shift in the shadow. A faint creak on the floorboards. The sound of fabric sliding over skin. And when you don't check, when you ignore it, that's when it comes closer. Not fast, not loud, just closer. You might feel a cold spot on the bed. You might feel breath on your neck. You might hear a whisper in your ear that sounds almost like your voice. It copies, it mimics, it blends, not to confuse you, to prepare you, because soon it won't need the curtain, it won't need shadows, it will sit beside you, stand behind you, speak through you. You won't even know when it happens. You'll wake up, look in the mirror, and something will be off. Your eyes won't blink quite right, your smile will linger too long. Your reflection will move just a little after you do. And the people around you? They'll say you seem different. Not worse, just not you. But tonight you're still you. Still in control, for now. You could still check. You could still confront it. Pull the curtain back, face it, but deep down, you've already made your choice. You won't. Because you'd rather lie still, let your eyes drift shut, and hope sleep comes quickly. And it will. But what you wake up as might not be the same. Now, if you've made it this far, congratulations. You're not just a viewer, you're part of something bigger. Something that watches with you, that sits beside you as you watch, as you listen, as you wait. Because this story doesn't end when the screen fades to black. It follows you into the next room, into your dreams, into your reflection. If you liked this story, like, share, and subscribe, so you don't miss the next one, so we don't miss you, and comment below. Tell us the moment you stopped feeling alone. We're watching, we're listening, and we read everything. Now, go ahead, gain the courage to check the dark corners before you sleep. Turn off the lights, close your eyes, sleep well, if you can. Story number 3. I should have thrown it out the moment I noticed. But let me ask you something first. When was the last time you really looked at your reflection? I mean, really looked. Not just checking your hair or teeth, but stared into your own eyes until the person staring back didn't quite feel like you anymore? Because that's when it starts. When you realize the reflection knows something you don't. If you're listening to this late at night, maybe turn on a light. Trust me on this one. And hey, if this story keeps you up, or makes you check your mirrors differently, hit that subscribe button, because what I'm about to tell you, it's still happening. And I need to know if anyone else has seen what I've seen. Now, let me tell you how it all began. The mirror came from Mrs. Henderson's estate sale 3 blocks over. October in Milwaukee gets cold fast, and that Saturday morning had frost on the windshields. I wasn't even looking for a mirror, just needed a bookshelf for my apartment. Mrs. Henderson had passed 2 months earlier. Natural causes, they said. Found her in the hallway, right in front of this ornate floor-length mirror. The realtor mentioned it offhand, like it was just another detail. She'd been 93, lived alone since her husband died in 92. Everything must go, the estate sale sign said. Cars lined the street, neighbors picking through someone's entire life, reduced to price tags and cardboard boxes. The mirror stood in the hallway, exactly where they'd found her. 7 feet tall. Carved mahogany frame with these intricate vine patterns. The glass had this quality to it, old glass, slightly warped, made your reflection shimmer just a bit. $50, the tag said. I didn't need a mirror. My hallway was narrow, barely had room to walk through. But something about it, I kept coming back to it. Other shoppers walked past, glanced at it, moved on, like they couldn't quite see it properly. You interested in that? The estate sale coordinator, a tired-looking woman named Janet, appeared beside me. Maybe. It's beautiful. Mrs. Henderson brought it from their old house in Bayview. 40 years ago? Said it was already old then. Her grandmother's, I think. I touched the frame. Cool, despite the crowded house. Did she like it? Janet's smile faltered. Funny thing, she kept it covered most of the time, only took the sheet off for cleaning. Said it made the hallway feel different. Different how? Just different. Janet glanced at the mirror, then away. I'll take 30 if you want it. Need it gone today. That should have been my first warning. My apartment was a converted Victorian near the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee campus. 2nd floor, original hardwood, radiator heat that clanked all winter. The hallway ran from my living room to the bedroom, just wide enough for one person. The delivery guys struggled getting it up the stairs. Heavier than it looks, one muttered. Sweating, despite the October chill. They mounted it on the wall opposite my bathroom door. The hallway instantly felt longer somehow, like the mirror added depth that wasn't there before. That first night, I kept walking past it. You know how a new piece of furniture draws your attention? But this was different. I'd catch myself stopping, staring, trying to figure out what seemed off. The reflection was perfect, too perfect, maybe. My hallway, my bathroom door, the family photos on the opposite wall. Everything exactly where it should be. Except, no, everything was fine, just needed to get used to it. 3 days passed, normal days, work at the marketing firm downtown, dinner with friends, Netflix before bed. But I started noticing things. The mirror's reflection seemed brighter than my actual hallway. Not much, just enough to notice if you paid attention. Like someone had turned up the contrast slightly, and the bathroom door in the reflection, sometimes I'd swear it was open a crack when mine was closed. But when I'd look directly, everything matched perfectly. You're being paranoid, I told myself. Old mirrors had imperfections. Light played tricks. Then Thursday night happened. I'd woken around 3 a.m., needed the bathroom, stumbled down the hallway in the dark, muscle memory guiding me. But as I passed the mirror, movement caught my eye. My reflection was already at the bathroom door. I froze, blinked hard. The reflection froze too, now perfectly matching my position. Heart hammering. I took a step forward. The reflection moved in sync. Just half asleep, I whispered. But I turned on the hall light before continuing to the bathroom. Coming back, I avoided looking at the mirror, almost made it to my bedroom when I heard it. A door closing. In the reflection, the bathroom door was swinging shut. But my actual bathroom door stood wide open, exactly how I'd left it. I stood there, watching the reflected door settle into its frame. Then I looked at my real door. Open, back to the mirror, closed. My reflection stood there too, but was it smiling? Just slightly? Or was that my own nervous expression distorted by old glass? I left the hall light on that night. Sleep came in fragments after that. Every sound made me wonder. Was it from my apartment or somewhere else? By morning, I'd almost convinced myself I'd imagined it. Stress from the Peterson campaign at work, too much caffeine, not enough sleep, but I started paying attention. The differences were subtle at first, a picture frame slightly crooked in the reflection when mine hung straight. The bathroom door opened wider or narrower than I'd left it. Small things that made me question my memory. I began taking photos. Real hallway. Then the reflection. Comparing them side by side on my phone. Everything matched in the pictures. Whatever I was seeing, the camera couldn't capture it. Saturday afternoon. I called my friend Marcus. Want to come over? I need a second opinion on something. Marcus arrived an hour later. A 6-pack of spotted cow beer and a bag of chips. What's up? You sounded weird on the phone. I led him to the hallway. Tell me what you see in that mirror. He looked, shrugged. Your hallway? Nothing seems off? Nope. He studied it closer. Nice mirror, though. Where'd you get it? I watched his reflection. It mimicked him perfectly. But there was something in its eyes. An awareness that wasn't in the real Marcus's face. Estate sale, the woman who owned it, died right here, in front of it. Creepy. Marcus took a swig of beer. But old people die. Probably just a coincidence. His reflection's lips moved slightly out of sync with his words. Yeah, I said. Probably. That night, after Marcus left, I sat in my living room trying to focus on a book, but my eyes kept drifting to the hallway entrance. The mirror was just out of sight from the couch, but I could see the light it reflected onto the opposite wall. The light kept changing. Subtle shifts, like clouds passing over the sun. Except, it was 10 p.m. and my hallway had no windows. I crept to the hallway entrance, peered around the corner. My reflection was already there, standing in the middle of the hallway, facing the mirror directly. But I was still mostly in the living room, only my head visible around the corner. We stared at each other, me and this reflection that had moved ahead of me. Then it raised its hand and waved. I jerked back into the living room, heart pounding, counted to 10, looked again. The reflection matched perfectly now. Just my head peering around the corner. Normal, natural. Except for the certainty that it was waiting for me to notice something. I grabbed my laptop and spent the next 3 hours researching the mirror. Mrs. Henderson. Her family. The house in Bayview she'd brought it from. Found an old Milwaukee Journal article from 1981. The Hendersons had bought the Bayview house from an estate sale. Previous owner had died in the hallway. No mention of a mirror. But the coincidence made my skin crawl. Deeper searching found another article. 1954. The Bayview house's original owners. The Blackwood family. Daughter claimed to see another house in the hallway mirror. Parents dismissed it as imagination until she disappeared one night. Found her 3 days later, catatonic, in the hallway. Never spoke again. I closed the laptop, hands shaking. The hallway seemed to pulse with invitation. Sunday morning brought rain. I made coffee, tried to pretend everything was normal, but I could feel the mirror's presence like a weight in my apartment. Finally, I couldn't stand it. I grabbed a sheet from the closet. The same impulse Mrs. Henderson must have had. But as I approached the mirror, sheet raised, I saw something that stopped me cold. The reflection showed my hallway, but not my hallway. The walls were the same shape, but the paint looked fresher. The photos on the wall were different, older. Black and white portraits of people I didn't recognize. And at the far end, where my bedroom door should be, was a staircase leading down. My apartment didn't have a staircase. The building's stairs were in the common hallway outside. I stood frozen, sheet half raised, watching this other hallway that existed in the same space as mine. Then, movement at the top of those impossible stairs, a shadow rising from below. Human-shaped, but wrong somehow, too tall. Joints bending at angles that made my eyes water. I threw the sheet over the mirror and ran. I spent Sunday night at Marcus's place. Told him I had a gas leak. Maintenance was fixing it. He didn't question the lie, but I caught him giving me worried looks. Monday at work was torture. Every reflective surface made me flinch. Computer screens, windows, even my coffee mug. But they all showed normal reflections. It was just the mirror. That specific mirror that showed the other place. I had to go back, had to understand. My apartment felt different when I returned Monday evening. Colder, despite the radiator hissing away. The sheet still covered the mirror, but I could see light seeping around the edges. That impossible light from a hallway that shouldn't exist. I sat on my couch, trying to think rationally. The mirror was old. Probably worth more than the $30 I'd paid. I could sell it, donate it, put it in storage, but I had to know first. Had to understand what I was seeing. I waited until midnight. The building was quiet, other tenants asleep. I stood before the covered mirror. Flashlight in one hand, phone recording in the other. If anyone finds this, I said to the camera, the mirror shows another place. Don't look too long, don't trust what you see. I pulled down the sheet. The other hallway was dark this time, but not empty. Figures stood along the walls, perfectly still. As my eyes adjusted, I realized they were all facing the mirror, watching, waiting. One stepped forward, and I recognized her despite the decades. The Blackwood daughter from the 1954 article. Still young, still in her nightgown, but her eyes were ancient, full of terrible knowledge. She pressed her palm against her side of the glass. I saw her mouth move, forming words I couldn't hear. "Help me." Then another figure joined her. Mrs. Henderson, but younger, wearing the dress from a photo I'd seen at the estate sale. Then another, and another, all the people who'd owned this mirror, who'd looked too long, who'd seen too much. My reflection stood among them now, not mimicking me, but standing independently, wearing clothes I didn't recognize. It looked at me with pity. "You're already here," it mouthed. "You just haven't crossed over yet." I stumbled backward, but the image pulled at me. The mirror's surface rippled like water, the boundary between here and there growing thin. That's when I understood. The mirror didn't show another house, it showed this house, this hallway, but from the other side. The side where things that shouldn't exist waited for people foolish enough to look. And every person who'd stared too long, who'd noticed too much, eventually crossed over. The surface rippled again. My hand was reaching toward it, and I couldn't tell if I was controlling it or if my reflection was pulling me forward. I wrenched myself away and drew the sheet back over the mirror, but I could feel them pressing against the glass. All those trapped souls wanting out or wanting me in. I grabbed my phone, called the only person I could think of. "Janet, from the estate sale, I know it's late, but the mirror, I need to know about the mirror." Silence. Then a sigh. "I wondered if you'd call. They always do, eventually." "You knew?" Mrs. Henderson made me promise. Said when someone bought it, when they started seeing things, to tell them the truth. "What truth?" "There's a room in the basement of the old Bayview house, sealed since 1954. Inside, there's another mirror, the matching piece. They were a pair, meant to face each other, create a corridor between places." "Between what places?" "Here." Janet's voice dropped to a whisper. "And somewhere else, the Blackwoods separated them. Thought it would break the connection, but it just trapped things. The people who look too long, they get pulled through, stuck in the space between mirrors." My hand holding the phone trembled. "How do I stop it?" "You can't. You can only complete the circuit or get rid of it, but everyone who's tried to destroy it, well, they crossed over first. The other mirror, it's still in Bayview, as far as I know, but don't go looking for it. Two mirrors facing each other with all those souls trapped between. God knows what would happen." I thanked Janet and hung up. The covered mirror seemed to pulse with malevolent life. I could hear them now. Whispers seeping through the glass. Promises. Threats. Truths I didn't want to know. That's why I'm recording this, uploading it tonight. Because tomorrow, I'm going to Bayview. I'm going to find that other mirror. Maybe I'm stupid. Maybe I'll end up like the others, trapped between reflections for eternity, but I can't live like this, knowing they're there, knowing my reflection isn't really me anymore. So, if you're listening to this, if you've made it this far, check your mirrors tonight. Look for the little differences, the movements that don't quite match, the reflected rooms that seem just a bit off. And if you see someone in your mirror who isn't in your room, someone watching from a hallway that shouldn't exist, don't look away. That's when they know you've seen them. That's when you're already lost. Update: I found the house in Bayview. The basement door was sealed, but the wood was rotting. I could hear something behind it. A low humming, like glass vibrating at a frequency just below hearing. I'm going in tomorrow night. If this works, if I can reunite the mirrors, maybe I can free them. Maybe I can close whatever door the Blackwoods opened, or maybe I'll join them. Another reflection trapped in that impossible hallway, waiting for the next person to look too long. Either way, I'll know the truth. If you don't hear from me again, stay away from estate sales in Milwaukee. And whatever you do, never trust a mirror that shows you more than it should, because sometimes your reflection knows exactly what's waiting on the other side, and it can't wait for you to join it. Update 2. I went back to Bayview last night. What I found, I'm still shaking. The house sat on a corner lot, one of those old craftsman homes that used to line Milwaukee's south side. Empty for years. Windows boarded, but the basement door practically opened itself, like it wanted me there. The smell hit first. Dust and something else. Something organic. Sweet. Wrong. My flashlight beam cut through decades of spider webs as I descended those wooden stairs. Each step groaned, threatened to collapse. The humming grew louder. Not mechanical, more like voices. Hundreds of voices all holding the same low note. The basement was bigger than it should be. I know house construction. My dad was a contractor. This basement extended beyond the foundation. Way beyond. Like someone had dug out extra rooms, extra corridors. A whole maze beneath the neighborhood. And there, at the far end of what should have been a simple cellar, stood a door, not sealed anymore, hanging open just a crack, light spilling out. That same impossible light I knew from my hallway. I pushed it open. The room was round. No corners. Just a perfect circle carved from stone. And in the center, the other mirror, identical to mine. Same mahogany frame, same vine patterns, same warped glass that showed too much. But this one wasn't empty. A woman stood in the reflection, not trapped like the others, but waiting. She wore a Victorian dress, high collar, buttons up to her throat. Her hair was steel gray, eyes sharp as winter. "Finally," she said. And yes, I could hear her. In that room. The boundary was so thin her voice carried through. "Who are you?" "Eleanor Blackwood. I created them." She gestured to the mirror. "My husband thought I was mad. Said mirrors couldn't be doorways. But I knew better. I'd seen the other side in dreams. The place between spaces where lost things go. Why?" My voice cracked. "Why would you make these? To find my son?" Her face softened, then hardened again. He disappeared when he was 7, vanished from his bed. No trace. The police said he ran away, but a mother knows. He was taken, pulled through to somewhere else. "So, you built mirrors to..." "What? Go after him?" "To create a bridge. 2 mirrors facing each other, properly attuned. They pierce the veil, make a corridor between worlds. I spent 20 years perfecting them. 20 years of studying, experimenting, sacrificing." The word sacrificing made my skin crawl. "Did you find him?" Eleanor's smile was terrible. "Oh yes, I found him, and countless others. You see, I didn't realize the mirrors would attract them. The lost ones, the taken ones, the ones who slip between cracks in reality. They're drawn to the light, like moths. Where are they now? Here, there, between. The mirrors create the corridor. But someone has to hold it open. Someone has to stand guard. Make sure the wrong things don't crawl through." "Wrong things?" She leaned closer to the glass. "The space between worlds isn't empty, boy. Things live there. Things that were never human. Things that hunger for our reality. The mirrors are doors. But doors open both ways." My flashlight flickered. In that moment of darkness, I saw movement behind Eleanor. Shapes writhing in the reflection. Too many limbs, too many eyes. Pressing against some invisible barrier. "That's why I separated them." Eleanor continued. "My husband was right to fear what I'd done, but it was too late. The connection was made. Breaking the pair only confused things. Trapped souls halfway through. Created pockets of wrongness wherever the mirrors went." "How do I fix this?" "You don't. You can't. The mirrors exist now. They'll always exist. Destroying one just releases everything trapped inside into your world permanently. Then what am I supposed to do? Eleanor studied me through the glass. You're strong. Stronger than the others who found the mirrors. You could take my place. Your place? Someone has to watch. Someone has to maintain the barrier. Keep the corridor closed. I've been here so long. Watching, waiting, making sure nothing crosses over that shouldn't. You're not dead? Her laugh was like breaking glass. Death would be simpler. I'm between, like the others, but aware, conscious, eternal guardian of my own mistake. I won't do it. I won't trap myself. Then they'll take you anyway. The mirrors are hungry now. They've tasted your attention. Your fear. You've looked too long. Soon your reflection will move without you. Then your shadow. Then... She didn't need to finish. There has to be another way. Eleanor's face grew thoughtful. Perhaps the mirrors were created as a pair, their strongest together, but also most vulnerable. If someone were brave enough, or foolish enough, they could enter one and exit the other, pass through the corridor completely. But what? You'd have to go through their realm, the space between, and you'd have to be quick. The things that live there, they're always watching for travelers, ready to follow them back. My phone buzzed. 3:33 a.m., the devil's hour, my grandmother used to call it, when the veil was thinnest. If I do this, if I go through, what happens to everyone trapped inside? Unknown, the corridor might collapse, freeing them, or it might stabilize, trapping them forever. Or, she paused, or it might merge the mirrors permanently, create a permanent door between worlds. None of those options sounded good, but I thought about my reflection, standing among the trapped souls, already caught between worlds, already lost. Tell me how. Eleanor smiled, sad and proud. Blood on the frame. Yours. Just a drop. It attunes the mirror to you, makes you real on both sides. Then step through, don't stop, don't look around, don't listen to the voices. Just move forward until you see light. The other mirror's light. That's it. That's it. But boy, her voice dropped. When you're in their realm, you'll see things. True things. Things about your world, your life, your future. The temptation to stop, to look, to learn. It's killed everyone who's tried. Everyone? My husband, my daughter, others who found the mirrors over the years. They all tried to fix my mistake. They all failed. Their souls still wander the corridor, lost in truth. I stared at the mirror, at Eleanor's ancient eyes, at the writhing darkness behind her. Why should I trust you? You shouldn't. I created this curse. I fed the mirrors their first souls. I opened doors that should have stayed closed, but... She pressed her palm against the glass. I'm tired. So tired. And you're the first in decades who might be strong enough. Strong enough for what? To do what I couldn't. To walk through hell and come out the other side. To maybe, finally, end this. I left the basement as dawn broke. The mirror in my apartment was humming now, vibrating with anticipation. My reflection moved constantly, pacing, waiting, sometimes screaming silently. I've spent all day preparing, writing this down, recording everything, because tonight, I'm going through. Both mirrors. My apartment to Bayview, through the corridor. If I make it, if this works, maybe the trapped souls will be free. Maybe the mirrors will lose their power. Maybe I'll wake up tomorrow in a world where reflections are just reflections. Or maybe I'll join them. Another ghost in the glass. Another warning for the next fool who buys a mirror at an estate sale. But I have to try, because my reflection isn't mine anymore, because every surface shows me something different. because the whispers are getting louder, and soon I won't be able to resist. So this is it, my final update in an hour. I'll put my blood on the frame. I'll step through. I'll walk the corridor between worlds. If you see a comment from me tomorrow, then I made it. Then there's hope. If not, remember this. Some doors aren't meant to be opened, some truths aren't meant to be known. And some mirrors should never show you more than your own frightened face. Subscribe to see if I survive. Comment if you felt your reflection watching. Share this before the mirrors find you too. Because they're out there, in estate sales and antique shops, in grandma's attic and abandoned houses, waiting for someone curious enough to look, waiting for you. Final update. The channel hasn't posted in 3 weeks, the apartment is empty, the mirror is gone. But sometimes, late at night, subscribers report seeing a face in their screens that isn't their own. Watching, waiting. Warning, don't look too long. Now, sleep. Or at least, try to. It's quiet now, too quiet, but not empty. That feeling crawling up your spine, that weight pressing on your chest, that's not your imagination. You're not alone. There's something behind the curtain. You haven't looked, not because you forgot, but because you're afraid to know. You heard the whisper, software wet, wrong. Like breath dragged across broken glass. But you told yourself it was the wind, didn't you? That lie made you feel safe. Temporarily. Let me ask you, does the wind whisper your name? Does the wind tap lightly, again and again, from the same spot, behind the curtain, every night? Does the wind leave scratches on your window that weren't there this morning? Thin, sharp, like claws, like warnings. You don't remember opening the window. You never open the window. But it's unlocked now. You could check, you could stand up, you could walk over and pull the curtain back. But you won't, because you know. You know what's waiting, not because you've seen it, but because you felt it. In the quiet, in the dark. Every time you close your eyes, every time you wake up and your blanket is just slightly moved. Your door slightly cracked. You try to explain it. Your mind wants to explain it. But that whisper, that sound that only comes when you're alone, when everything is still, when the night is at its deepest, that's not a dream, that's a presence. It doesn't want your fear, it wants your attention. It feeds on the moment you doubt yourself. The second you wonder if you heard something, the instant your heart rate rises. That's when it leans closer. It's been patient, watching, learning you like prey. You ever notice it never shows up when the lights are on, when someone's in the room? It waits for the ritual, the brushing of your teeth, the turning off of lights, the last look at your phone, the deep breath just before sleep. That's when it wakes up. That's when it stirs behind the curtain. Sometimes it watches you all night. Sometimes it moves. A shift in the shadow. A faint creak on the floorboards. The sound of fabric sliding over skin. And when you don't check, when you ignore it, that's when it comes closer. Not fast, not loud, just closer. You might feel a cold spot on the bed. You might feel breath on your neck. You might hear a whisper in your ear that sounds almost like your voice. It copies, it mimics, it blends, not to confuse you, to prepare you, because soon it won't need the curtain, it won't need shadows, it will sit beside you, stand behind you, speak through you. You won't even know when it happens. You'll wake up, look in the mirror, and something will be off. Your eyes won't blink quite right, your smile will linger too long. Your reflection will move just a little after you do. And the people around you? They'll say you seem different. Not worse, just not you. But tonight you're still you. Still in control, for now. You could still check. You could still confront it. Pull the curtain back, face it, but deep down, you've already made your choice. You won't. because you'd rather lie still, let your eyes drift shut, and hope sleep comes quickly. And it will. But what you wake up as might not be the same. Now, if you've made it this far, congratulations. You're not just a viewer, you're part of something bigger. Something that watches with you, that sits beside you as you watch, as you listen, as you wait. Because this story doesn't end when the screen fades to black. It follows you into the next room, into your dreams, into your reflection. If you liked this story, like, share, and subscribe, so you don't miss the next one, so we don't miss you, and comment below. Tell us the moment you stopped feeling alone. We're watching, we're listening, and we read everything. Now, go ahead, gain the courage to check the dark corners before you sleep. Turn off the lights, close your eyes, sleep well, if you can. Story number 4. Listen closely. If you're watching this alone tonight, maybe grab someone to sit with you, because what I'm about to tell you happened just 3 weeks ago, and I still can't drive at night without checking my rearview mirror every few seconds. I still wake up at 2:47 a.m., exactly, hearing those screams. You know what's worse than a ghost story? A ghost story that follows you home. Before I begin, hit that subscribe button. Not because I want the numbers, but because you'll want to know what happened after. Trust me on that. And now, the story begins. The GPS died right as I crossed into Millbrook County. Just blinked out. Like someone had pulled the plug on reality itself. 1 second, that annoying robotic voice was telling me to continue for 12 miles, and the next, nothing but static on the screen. I pulled over on Route 49, that lonely stretch of asphalt that cuts through Indiana farmland like a scar. October wind rattled through the cornstalks, making them whisper secrets I didn't want to hear. My phone showed no signal bars. Not unusual out here. But the timing felt wrong. That's when I saw the detour sign. Hand-painted, not official. Bridge out, use Old Mill Road. I should have turned back, found another way. But Chicago was still 4 hours away, and I'd already been driving since Memphis. My sister's wedding was tomorrow morning. I couldn't miss it, not after missing Dad's funeral last year. Old Mill Road was barely wide enough for my Honda Civic. Trees pressed in from both sides, their branches scraping against my windows like fingernails. The headlights caught glimpses of abandoned barns, rusted farm equipment, and then the bridge. It looked normal enough. Just an old covered bridge, the kind you see on postcards of rural America. Weathered wood, faded red paint, a sign that read, Whispering Creek Bridge, built 1887. But locals don't call it Whispering Creek Bridge. They call it Crybaby Bridge. I'd heard the stories, of course. Every small town in America has one. A bridge where a mother threw her baby into the water, or where a school bus crashed, or where teenagers died on prom night. The details change, but the ending's always the same. If you stop on the bridge at night and turn off your engine, you'll hear crying. Baby crying, mother crying, someone crying. Just stories, right? My car lurched forward onto the wooden planks. They groaned under the weight, a sound that made my teeth ache. The covered part of the bridge swallowed my car whole, cutting off the moonlight. Only my headlights penetrated the darkness ahead. That's when the engine stuttered. Once. Twice. Then died. The silence hit me like a physical thing. No engine, no radio static, even the wind seemed to hold its breath. I turned the key. Nothing, not even a click. "Come on," I whispered. My voice sounded too loud in the darkness. "Not now, please, not now." I tried again, still nothing. That's when I heard it, crying. Soft at first. So soft, I thought it might be the wind through the bridge's wooden slats. But wind doesn't sob. Wind doesn't catch its breath between wails. My hands shook as I reached for my phone. Still no signal. The screen's light seemed pathetically weak against the darkness pressing in through my windows. The crying grew louder. Not outside the car, but inside. Like someone was in the back seat, I spun around, heart hammering. Empty, but the crying continued. A baby's wail mixed with a woman's keening grief, the sound of loss so profound it made my chest tight. I had to get out, had to run. My hand fumbled for the door handle and froze. In my rearview mirror, illuminated by the dim light from my phone screen, I saw her. A woman in a nightgown, soaking wet despite no rain. Her hair hung in dark strings around her face. Her mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. Just the crying. Always the crying. She stood at the entrance to the bridge, blocking my only way back. I blinked, and she was closer. 10 feet from my bumper. Blinked again, 5 feet. The crying became screaming. Not just one voice now, but dozens, maybe hundreds. All of them pouring out of the bridge's wooden bones, filling my car, filling my head. I slammed my palm on the horn. The sound exploded through the night, harsh and modern against those ancient wails. The engine roared to life. I didn't question it, threw the car in drive and floored it. The bridge seemed to stretch forever, those wooden planks thundering beneath my tires like rapid gunfire. In the mirror, the woman kept pace, gliding rather than running, her mouth still moving in that silent scream. Then I was through. Bursting out the other side onto solid asphalt, the crying cut off like someone had slammed a door. My GPS flickered back to life, cheerfully announcing I should make a U-turn at my earliest convenience. I didn't stop driving until I hit a 24-hour gas station 15 miles away. Parked under the brightest light I could find and sat there, shaking, trying to convince myself it had been a dream. Exhaustion. Hallucination. But when I finally worked up the courage to check my car, there were wet handprints on the trunk. Small ones. Child-sized. And in the center of each print, pressed deep into the metal like a brand, a tiny tooth. I made it to Chicago, smiled through my sister's wedding, pretended everything was fine. But every time someone asked about my drive, I felt those wet handprints burning on my trunk like a fever. The internet became my obsession. Every spare moment I searched. Whispering Creek Bridge, Indiana. Crybaby Bridge, Millbrook County. Ghost Bridge Route 49. Nothing. It was like the place didn't exist. No historical records. No urban legend websites, not even a mention on local forums. The only thing I found was an old newspaper archive from 1953 that mentioned Old Mill Road. But nothing about a bridge. I started calling hotels in the area, pretending to be a travel blogger. Most had never heard of Whispering Creek Bridge. But one desk clerk, an older woman named Dolores, went quiet when I asked, "You didn't stop there, did you?" Her voice dropped to barely above a whisper. "Why?" I gripped the phone tighter. "What happens if you stop?" "They follow you home." She hung up. That night, I heard crying in my Chicago apartment. Soft, distant, like it was coming through the walls. I told myself it was the neighbor's baby, had to be, but my neighbor was a 70-year-old bachelor. The handprints on my car spread. Each morning, I'd find new ones. Tiny fingers crawling across the hood, the doors, the windows. I tried washing them off, scrubbing until my hands bled. They always came back by dawn. A week passed. The crying got louder. Objects in my apartment moved. Small things at first. Keys, remote control, coffee mug. Then I woke up to find all my kitchen chairs stacked on the table. My photos turned face down. My bathroom mirror cracked in the shape of a small hand. I had to go back. Had to understand what I'd brought home with me. The drive felt different in daylight. Normal, almost pleasant. Route 49 looked like any other rural highway, cornfields golden in the afternoon sun. I found the detour sign easily. But something was wrong. It pointed in the opposite direction. I drove Old Mill Road 3 times, end to end. No bridge, no creek, nothing but farmland and forest. At a local diner, I finally found someone willing to talk. Earl, mid-60s, the kind of guy who'd lived in Millbrook County his whole life. "There used to be a bridge," he said, not meeting my eyes. "Back in the 20s. Covered bridge over Whispering Creek. What happened to it?" He pushed his pie around his plate. "Burned down. 1929, Halloween night." "How?" "Margaret Holloway." The name came out like a curse. Lost her baby to scarlet fever. Grief drove her mad. She kept hearing him cry, even after they buried him. One night, she took every doll in town, said they were all her baby, and carried them to the bridge. My coffee turned cold in my hands. Set herself on fire right in the middle. Bridge went up like kindling. They found her body, but he shook his head. The dolls were gone, every last one. Some say she threw them in the creek first. Others say they burned with her. But on quiet nights, folks still hear them crying. "But I drove across it," I insisted. 3 weeks ago, the bridge was there. Earl finally looked at me. His eyes held a mixture of pity and fear. "Son, there hasn't been a bridge on Old Mill Road for 95 years. That night, in my hotel room, I found them. Under the bed, in the closet, behind the shower curtain. Dolls. Dozens of porcelain dolls with cracked faces and melted eyes. Each one holding a brass plate with a name. Sarah, Michael, Elizabeth. Normal names for normal children who'd died too young in a small Indiana town. And at the bottom of the pile, newest looking, despite being impossible. A doll with my sister's name. The crying started at 2:47 a.m. Not from the dolls. From the mirror. I watched my reflection open its mouth and wail with a grief that wasn't mine. Watched tears that weren't tears stream down cheeks that weren't cheeks. In the reflection behind me, Margaret Holloway smiled. I ran. Left the dolls, left the hotel, left Indiana. But you can't outrun something that's already inside your home, inside your head. The handprints followed me back to Chicago. Up the elevator. Through my door, across my ceiling. Each night, more of them. An army of tiny ghost children crawling through my life, leaving their wet marks on everything I touched. My sister called, worried. Said I'd been acting strange since the wedding. Said her baby had been crying nonstop since I'd visited. Her baby. 8 months old. Perfect little fingers that would fit exactly into those prints. I tried everything. Sage smudging. Salt circles. Even paid a priest to bless my apartment, though he left halfway through, claiming he felt sick. The dolls appeared nightly now. Different ones, older ones. Some so ancient their porcelain had yellowed like old bones. They whispered names in voices like cracking ice. Thomas, age 2, drowned in the bathtub. Mary, age 3, fell down the stairs. James, age 1, stopped breathing in his sleep. A catalog of small tragedies. Each one ended the same way, with Margaret Holloway's tears, with her guilt, with her desperate attempt to save them all by making them dolls. By keeping them forever, I understood now, the bridge didn't burn because she was mad with grief. It burned because she was trying to open a door. And somehow, for one night every few years when the conditions were just right, when someone drove through alone, desperate to get somewhere else, that door opened again. I'd driven through her memory, through her last moments, and in doing so, I'd given her a new path into the world. The crying stopped being random. It followed patterns. 2:47 a.m., the time her baby died. 3:15 a.m., when she stole the first doll. 4:33 a.m., when she lit the match. I started staying awake, watching, waiting. On the 7th night, I saw her clearly. She didn't look evil, just broken. A woman in a nightgown, forever soaked with creek water that had never touched her. She stood by my bed, mouth moving in silent words I was beginning to understand. "Help them," she mouthed. "Help my babies." The dolls weren't vessels for dead children. They were Margaret's attempt to give them form, to make them real again. But fire doesn't create. It only transforms. and what she'd transformed them into. They were hungry. Not for food or warmth or love. They were hungry for what they'd never had. Life. That's why the handprints spread, why the crying grew louder. They were trying to crawl back into the world, using me as their bridge, using everyone who crossed that phantom bridge as their way back. I found the others online once I knew what to look for. Not searching for Crybaby Bridge, but for wet handprints, dolls appearing, crying at 2:47. Dozens of posts, different states, different years. Always the same story. Drove through somewhere that shouldn't exist and brought something back. Most posts stopped after a few weeks. The users went silent. I didn't want to know why, but I had to do something. The handprints had reached my bedroom door. If they got out into the hallway, into the world, how many ghost children could one mad woman create? How many grieving mothers had lost babies in small towns across America? How many had whispered Margaret Holloway's name in their darkest moments, unknowingly opening doors that should stay closed? I made a decision. If I was a bridge, I could choose what crossed. That night, instead of running from the crying, I listened. Really listened. Heard the individual voices, the fear, the confusion. These weren't evil spirits. They were children who didn't understand why they couldn't go home. At 2:47 a.m., when Margaret appeared, I didn't look away. I'll help them, I said, but not like this, not as dolls, not as echoes. Show me the real bridge. She tilted her head, considering, then reached out one wet hand. The moment her fingers touched mine, the world exploded into memory. I stood on Whispering Creek Bridge, but not the covered bridge I'd driven through. This was older, simpler, just wooden planks over water so dark it looked like spilled ink. Margaret Holloway stood beside me, but younger, alive, her baby in her arms, breathing, cooing, happy. "This is before," she whispered, "when everything was perfect." The scene shifted, the baby sick, doctors shaking their heads, a tiny coffin, Margaret screaming, clawing at the dirt, trying to dig him back up. "I couldn't let him go," she said. "Couldn't let any of them go." More scenes. Margaret at other funerals, other mothers' grief. She started collecting, not dolls at first, but memories. A lock of hair, a favorite toy, a piece of clothing. Then the dreams began. The dead children visiting her, asking why she'd stolen their things. She tried to give them back, but the parents were horrified, called her mad, dangerous. "So I made them new bodies," Margaret said. "Beautiful porcelain bodies that would never grow old, never get sick." The doll maker, suspicious but well paid, crafted them to her specifications. Each doll a perfect replica of a lost child. Margaret thought if she made them real enough, loved them hard enough, they'd come back. They did, but not as children. They came as echoes, shadows, hungry things that cried in voices like broken music boxes. They wanted warmth, life, mother's milk and father's hugs and all the years they'd never have. "I tried to send them back," Margaret sobbed. "But they wouldn't go. They said I'd called them, made them promises." The final scene. Halloween night, 1929. Margaret on the bridge with dozens of dolls. Not burning them out of madness, but trying to free them. The fire was supposed to release their spirits. Instead, it bound them to her forever. "Every time someone crosses," she said, "they take a piece of it with them, spread it further. I can't stop it, can't control it. Can only watch as my babies crawl into the world, looking for lives to steal." I understood now. The bridge I'd driven through wasn't real. It was Margaret's dying memory, replaying endlessly. A ghost of a ghost, catching travelers and marking them as doors. "How do I stop it?" I asked. She looked at me with eyes full of 95 years of regret. You don't stop it, you redirect it. She showed me, not in words but in images, feelings, understanding that poured into my mind like water. The children needed acknowledgement, recognition. They needed someone to remember they'd lived, not just died. The dolls were prisons, but memories could be bridges of a different kind. I woke in my apartment at sunrise. No crying, no handprints, just silence and a strange sense of purpose. I started that day, research, real research. Not into ghost stories, but into history, census records, birth certificates, death certificates, piecing together the real children behind Margaret's dolls. Thomas Ashford, age 2, didn't drown in a bathtub, died of pneumonia, loved toy soldiers. Mary Clemens, age 3, didn't fall downstairs, had polio, could sing before she could talk. James Murray, age 1, didn't stop breathing, born too early. His mother planted roses on his grave. Names became stories. Stories became memories. Real memories, not Margaret's twisted versions. I started a blog, simple, respectful, remembering Millbrook County's children. Each post, a child, their life, however brief, their families, their favorite things, what they might have become. The crying faded with each post. The handprints appeared less frequently. The dolls, when they showed up, looked less broken, less hungry. Other people found the blog, people who'd driven through impossible bridges, who'd brought home wet handprints and porcelain faces. They shared their own research, their own town's lost children. Margaret visited one last time, dry now, peaceful. She didn't speak, just smiled and faded like morning mist. But I'm not done, can't be done, because here's the thing about ghost stories, they spread. Every town has a crybaby bridge. Every community has lost children. And somewhere, there's always a grieving mother who doesn't know how to let go. So I keep posting, keep remembering, keep turning hungry ghosts back into mourned children. The handprints on my car are gone now, washed away by time and purpose, but sometimes late at night I still hear crying. Not the desperate wails of the trapped, but the gentle tears of the remembered. And sometimes, just sometimes, I hear laughter too. If you've made it this far, you're probably checking your car for handprints, looking over your shoulder for dolls. Good, you should. Because Margaret Holloway wasn't unique. She was just one of many who loved too hard to let go. But here's what the stories don't tell you. The real horror isn't in the haunting. It's in the forgetting. Every ghost was once a person. Every curse was once a love too strong to die. Remember that next time you drive through the darkness. Remember that every bridge connects two shores. And sometimes the shore you're heading to isn't the one you think. Check your mirrors, count the handprints, listen for the crying, and if you find them, if something followed you home, remember their names. It's the only way to set them free. Subscribe if this helped you. Comment if you've seen the handprints. Share if you know someone who drives alone at night, because the bridges are still out there, still hungry, still waiting, and Margaret Holloway still has so many babies to send home. Sweet dreams. But wait, there's something I didn't tell you, something I couldn't tell you until now. Remember when I said the handprints were gone? That was true from my car. But last week, I discovered something that made my blood freeze. I was visiting my sister, helping with the baby. He'd finally stopped crying all the time, and she was grateful. So grateful that I'd been there for her. We were looking through old family photos when I saw it. A picture of our grandmother, standing next to a car, a 1928 Ford Model A, with small wet handprints on the hood. My sister laughed. Weird, right? Grandma always said that car was cursed, said she bought it from some woman in Indiana who needed money fast. October 1929, right before the market crashed. October 1929. The same month Margaret Holloway burned. I asked to see more photos. box after box of family history, and there, scattered throughout decades, the handprints. On my great-uncle's truck in 1952, my father's station wagon in 1978, my mother's minivan in 1993, always appearing after someone took a long drive, always accompanied by stories of strange crying, bad dreams, things moving in the night. We weren't random victims, we were chosen. Margaret Holloway didn't just collect dolls. She collected families, bloodlines, people with something she recognized. Maybe sensitivity to the other side, maybe just the right kind of loneliness. And she marked us, generation after generation. The blog isn't just helping strangers, it's helping my own family. All those children I've been researching, some of them share my last name. Distant cousins, forgotten branches of a family tree rooted in tragedy. My sister's baby, the one who wouldn't stop crying. His name is Thomas, just like Thomas Ashford, age 2, who died in 1924. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think Margaret gives us chances, tests, pass through her bridge, acknowledge her children, and maybe she lets that generation go, fail, and the crying continues. The handprints spread until someone in the bloodline finds their way to her bridge again. But here's what terrifies me most. I found Margaret Holloway's genealogy records. She had sisters, 3 of them. They all lost children young. They all went mad with grief. They all disappeared on the same night in October 1929. If every sister became like Margaret, if every sister built their own bridge of memory and sorrow, how many families are marked? How many people drive through impossible places, thinking they're taking shortcuts, never knowing they're following paths their blood has traveled before? Check your family photos. Look for the handprints. Listen for stories about crying in the night. And if you find them, if you realize you're marked too, the bridges are waiting. They've always been waiting. Subscribe now. Share this with your family, especially the ones who drive alone at night, because the only thing worse than being haunted is not knowing why your bloodline was chosen. Margaret's still out there, her sisters too, building bridges out of sorrow, waiting for the marked ones to cross, waiting for you, pleasant dreams, if you can manage them. And remember, every family has its ghosts. Some of them just leave more handprints than others.